Hi, I'm Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of Regalytics, and here's your update on this week's 7,952 regulatory alerts. The regulator of the week is, drumroll, the White House for pardoning all federal criminals who were convicted for simple possession of marijuana. Biden is also urging the rest of the governors of the 50 states to do the same. The White House also put out a revised national strategy for the Arctic, which of course has some climate-related focus, but it seems to be more urgently focused on countering Russian and Chinese threats in the region. President Biden also issued proclamation number 10459, the National Clean Energy Action Month, which may have led to our topic of the week, state cooperation. California, Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia signed a new statement of cooperation recommitting the entire region to climate action. From transitioning to a low-carbon economy to investing in climate infrastructure, these governments are going to coordinate on EV charging stations, clean electric grids, managing changing weather patterns like wildfire, drought, heat waves, and, of course, sea level changes. And, of course, it includes a major focus on equity, so no particular group is left behind. Meanwhile, the governors of North Dakota, Montana, and Wisconsin have signed a memorandum of understanding to develop a regional clean hydrogen hub. And since we're on climate, the Fed announced a $1 billion investment into the Clean Technology Fund, which is a trust fund essentially set up by the G7 that helps scale low-carbon tech in developing countries. The Fed also announced that 6 of the nation's largest banks are going to participate in a pilot climate scenario analysis exercise that will help regulators to better supervise firms to measure and manage climate-related financial risks. So basically, they'll give a scenario like, okay, oceans rise by 18 inches, and then ask the banks, how much money did you lose? The Fed will release its learnings, but none of the actual information from the banks. It reminds me a lot of living wills. Speaking of rising waters, the Office of Science Technology Policy, the Council on Environmental Quality, and the Interagency Ocean Policy Committee request input from all interested parties to inform the development of a U.S. Ocean Climate Action Plan that will help guide the federal government in the future to prepare for climate change. If you have any thoughts, you have until November 18th to send them in. On to more humdrum financial compliance. The OCC released its Bank Supervision Operating Plan, which is basically telling you what they're going to be asking you questions about in their exams. So if you do run compliance for an OCC chartered bank, just take a look and figure out where your gaps are going to be now. The Fed updated rules related to debit card transactions. It's not a huge change to what's already out there, but they are insisting that those firms that have not added a second payment processor to their network need to do so by July 1st of next year. The Fed is also amending rules for FMUs, or financial market utilities. And speaking of financial market utilities, the CME Group announced plans to launch 3 new cryptocurrency reference rates and real-time indices, which will be calculated and published daily. The references aren't actual tradable future products, but it's a way essentially for the pricing of crypto to be benchmarked. In our fine tracker this week, we got the male Anna Delvey caught by the SEC. Justin Costello was using a false persona as a Harvard-educated military veteran and hedge fund billionaire to defraud investors out of millions of dollars. Meanwhile, in Seattle, a 37-year-old female tech worker was sentenced for hacking into cloud computer data storage accounts and stealing data and computer power for her own benefit. And our last update this week, I'm sorry, is kind of scary, but hey, Halloween's almost here. So maybe this year you should dress up as a vape pen, because a study from the FDA and the CDC discovered that in the last 30 days, 2.5 million U.S. middle and high school students used e-cigarettes. Remember, you're not supposed to smoke till you're 18. So that is 14% of high school students and 3.3% of middle school students. That's it this week for Regalytics. See you next Wednesday.